I came across a statistic of autoimmune diseases and deaths of unknown cause doubling compared to the year before. So if we think about this autoimmune disease or having a diagnosis, like we're seeing this statistic nationwide doubling. So there's something happening in our environment that's impacting the way that we look and feel. To the effect that actually some people are dying from these things. What can we do to clean up our environment to feel better and look better? That's what I'm all about.
So I am super excited to chat with Rachel Varga. We are going to discuss how to get radiant skin naturally and go beyond that.
So if we think about our health and we think about the toxins that we're exposed to, it's sort of like a toxic bucket. And this bucket can get filled up if we're exposed. I do want to talk actually about air because people don't think about air quality impacting the skin. Most of the body's intake of heavy metals is through the air, either through inhalation or resting on the skin. I've worked with a lot of clients over the years that have thyroid disease, hyperthyroidism, hypothyroidism. And first things first, we want to really just clean up the skincare routine, dial it in and streamline it.
Okay. There is a little bit of controversy in the world of thyroid health and immune system that it could be potentially. So I am super excited to chat with Rachel Varga. We are going to discuss how to get radiant skin naturally and go beyond that. We're also going to talk about the hair, healthy eyes. Again, this is going to be an excellent conversation. So let me go ahead and dive into Rachel's bio here. Rachel Varga is a double board certified aesthetic nurse specialist. Since 2011, Rachel has been offering medical aesthetic rejuvenation in the specialty of oculoplastics and is known for providing a natural and healthy look and transformation and educating through her show, the School of Radiance podcast. And welcome, Rachel.
Thanks so much for having me here. It's great to connect, and we had a fantastic conversation all on thyroid and the skin on the School of Radiance podcast too, and excited to get into some natural skin radiance tips for everybody here.
Yeah, same here. We had an amazing conversation on your show, as you said. Yeah, this is going to be another amazing one. And so for those who are not familiar with, we gave a little bit of your background with the bio, but if you go a little bit deeper, what made you decide to get into aesthetics and focus on helping people get radiant skin?
Absolutely. I did 2 years of peds ICU care, and that was very challenging psychologically, also just with schedule of shift work and things like that. And I thought to myself, do I want to become a doctor? Considering that, I wrote the MCAT, took Gen Chem, Organic Chem, and Biochem. And then I actually started working as an aesthetics nurse. I got training and then started offering rejuvenation. So that basically encompasses skincare, lasers, and other non-surgical rejuvenation modalities. And I fell in love with it. I started to actually end up teaching other doctors and nurses. So I started in the industry in 2011, started teaching in about 2017, 2018, published my first PubMed paper on eye aging recommendations. So basically how I achieve non-surgical rejuvenation for the eyes, because the eyes is the first area of the face to show signs of aging. Huge implications with thyroid health in the eyes, which I'm sure we'll get into. And then around that same time, when I started publishing papers, I started to look at the data, the nationwide data on what's impacting our health. And I came across a statistic of autoimmune diseases and deaths of unknown cause doubling compared to the year before. And then with subsequent papers I've written, one on oxidative stress, basically a biohacking paper. What can we do to clean up our environment to feel better and look better? That's what I'm all about. And I saw again that statistic, deaths of unknown cause double. So we really, I think, if we want great skin and we want to support our thyroid and both look and feel our best, we really need to consider not just rejuvenation for looking great, but also every single thing that we're doing throughout our day. And this is where biohacking, modulating our environment, aka purifying it with the approach I take and publish papers on and speak to, that's really what's going to set the stage for reduced inflammation and slowing aging. So I also just observed quite frankly, in a number of my patients over the years who looked the best and actually didn't need as much rejuvenation and got faster and more powerful results. So what were they doing in their lifestyle? They were living a clean lifestyle, body, mind, spirit, energy. They were drinking filtered water. They were, maybe filtering their air, getting outside in nature so they had less exposure to EMFs. They would do regular detoxes, and they also ate specifically to what their body wanted, and they didn't follow the trends. So I basically started to just take notes out of these patients' playbooks, who I then called Radiant. It's like, why are this subset of people, like, why are they different? Why are they more beautiful, even if they have signs of aging? And then I started to study that and speak to that for many years now. And it's great because you could be in your 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and actually be looking and feeling better than maybe you did even a decade before, with just a couple of simple tweaks that just maybe do take a little bit of time to learn and integrate, but just make us look better by simply reducing inflammation.
All right, awesome. So that's great so your first ever paper was on eye aging. So that's pretty cool. I was going to ask you about the foundations, and you kind of just ran them off like quickly. So can you say them again and just talk about, maybe spend a few minutes on how important it is to incorporate those foundations?
Absolutely. So if we think about this autoimmune disease kind of category, or deaths of unknown cause, so someone passing even before even having a diagnosis, like, we're seeing this statistic nationwide doubling. So there's something happening in our environment that's impacting the way that we look and feel, to the effect that actually some people are dying from these things. So you might think, oh, this Rachel Varga nurse focuses on skin and it's all about the superficial. But if you want to look great, you have to consider what's going on the inside from what I consider a toxic bucket kind of angle. So if we think about our health and we think about the toxins that we're exposed to, it's sort of like a toxic bucket. And this bucket can get filled up if we're exposed to, tap water or forest fire smoke or industrial pollution or heavy metals from the air or mold, all sorts of things, EMFs, things like that. I'll actually get into some of the simple things that we can do. But I would say that we're in a different time than, say, our parents or our grandparents or great-grandparents. There's more things that have been modified in our food and in our environment that, if we want to continue to thrive and live a purpose-filled life, have great families, relationships, have energy to focus on what we can contribute to in being a positive impact in the world, we do need to take a little extra care of ourselves in considering where we live and the amount of toxins we might be exposed to, and then what we can do about it, which will make your skin look better. It will also probably contribute to maybe even a lessening of thyroid disease symptoms, right? All these things could potentially be supportive in just helping your body operate better. And so air, water, lighting, electromagnetics, eating the right foods, and then decreasing the load in your body of, say, yeast, fungi, parasites, heavy metals, and mold. So that's really the angle that I recommend taking. And when we think about kind of biohacking or all these fancy gadgets and things that we can buy to, support our mitochondria, we're going to think red light and other things. But I would actually say purification first of your environment, and then living actually a more peaceful life, reducing that stress, slowing down the pace, being more present. So psychologically and mentally, that's going to have, I think, a positive supportive impact on just how good we look and feel as well. And these things just take time to learn. They take time to learn how to practice and kind of reprogram the way that we operate. So kind of mentioned a couple of things that are like the nitty gritty foundational things that I recommend we start purifying first, that I wrote the paper on. And then some of these sort of how we move through life to both look and feel our best. And they're all going to work together. And then, of course, living a purpose-driven life. So the whole thing about having beautiful, radiant skin naturally is it just might require some shifting in how you operate.
Yeah, I think a lot of people overlook the foundations, especially when thinking about healthy skin or, again, healthy eyes. Like they don't think about purifying their air, the water that they drink, let alone EMFs, the impact of EMFs. Many people still aren't aware of the negative impact that has. Quick question about the water. What type of water do you recommend, or what do you personally drink? Reverse osmosis or spring water? Or I'd love to get your thoughts on that.
I mean, ideally, if you can get yourself a parts per million water tester thing, that's helpful. But in general, we really want to stay away from tap water. And the reason why is water is treated at a water treatment plant with a whole bunch of different stuff. And then the pipes that water travels through, they never get cleaned. They get laid in the ground. And then what can happen is in those pipes themselves, biofilms can accumulate. And if you're not filtering your water, you're drinking those biofilms. And then that can inadvertently add to a toxic load. The other thing with water is the pipes sometimes are like a plastic pipe. So like a PVC piping, which emit phthalates. And those can negatively impact our hormones. So for water purification, distilled water is always going to be the best. That's what we use in chemistry lab and biochemistry and all of that for reactions because it's the most pure. It's hydrogen and oxygen, which is actually a chemical. So when you hear things like, oh, chemical-free skincare, that's the biggest kind of greenwashing ad joke out there from anyone who knows anything about chemistry. Some chemicals are good for us, such as water, the combination of the hydrogen atom and the oxygen atom to make the H2O water chemical or compound, if you will. So distilled water is best, but what I find is more accessible is reverse osmosis. So I have a page on my website at theschoolofradiance.com. It's my biohacking tab. And that's where I have listed all of the different air purifiers, water purifiers, EMF mitigation, fabrics, and things like that that I personally use. So for reverse osmosis, you can do your whole home, or you can have a countertop solution, or something that your plumber comes and hooks up underneath your sink, and also a shower filter and things like that too. So filtering your water is really, really important so that you're reducing your exposure to biofilms and also different chemicals that are utilized to kill things like pathogens in the water from the water treatment plants. But a lot of things don't get filtered out that are in our water now that I do care about filtering out for myself.
Agree. I use reverse osmosis as well. I've used distilled in the past too. And the tap water, and then drives me crazy to people who purchase the plastic water bottles by the case and drink. That's what they drink. And then again, a lot of people just don't know. So it's
you don't know. You don't know what you don't know. It's all good. You know now.
Yep, exactly. So it's our goal to try to educate them. And so let's talk more about healthy skin tips. Once someone has incorporated the foundations, what else can they do?
I do want to talk actually about air, because people don't think about air quality impacting the skin. Most of the body's intake of heavy metals is through the air, either through inhalation or resting on the skin. And when I was doing my research for this paper on oxidative stress status and its impacts on skin aging, which if you look up my name, Rachel Varga, on PubMed, you'll find many papers that I've published over the years. And when debris actually rests on the skin, it tells our keratinocyte stem cells to die faster. We don't want that. The skin cycle already slows down as we age, which is why we want to do things like cleansing and exfoliating and retinol. So having air purifiers in your home is great to help to reduce that load on the skin from what actually lands on the skin. So the saying cleanliness is next to godliness, I love that sentiment, because cleansing the skin twice a day, as well as the skin on the body, is a great approach. So a really simple skin tip is actually to wash your face in the AM and the PM with a double cleanse in the PM. And the reason why we do want to do that double cleanse in the PM is the first cleanse is you wash your face, use your cleanser, rinse it off. That's getting off your makeup, your skincare. And then your second cleanse is actually washing your face. and then rinsing that off thoroughly. And a big thing that people miss, it's like textbook. Someone meets with me, they have red irritated eyes, they have red irritated sensitive dry skin. And I ask them, are you cleansing the skin twice a day? Are you doing a double cleanse in the PM? No, I'm using an oil cleanser to take off makeup. I'm using my cellular water. I'm using a makeup remover mitt. And that I don't find works. And I've been doing this a really long time, since 2011. And just 2 weeks of tweaking a skincare routine to care for the skin how it wants to be cared for can actually help to reduce that skin redness, dryness, and sensitivity from caring for the largest organ of the body. So cleansing is really foundational, and actually rinsing the eyelids well, and so that you're keeping these meibomian glands on the eyelids clean, because 50% of the population has dry eye. That's a pretty common thing to experience. So clean eyelids is very important. That's why I don't like those lash extensions as well that became very popular a number of years ago. I think just they're a breeding ground for bacteria. Not to mention the time and money it takes to install them and reinstall them. No thanks, not for me. I don't even get my nails done, because getting my nails done is also a degree of toxic exposure too. So cleansing, moisturizing, second key foundation. A moisturizer should function like a multivitamin for the skin. It's like taking a multivitamin internally. When we're putting something on the skin, we don't just want it to make the skin feel good. We want it to be doing something for the skin. So this is where hyaluronic acid, copper peptides, antioxidants really come into play. And then, of course, we want that formulation to be preserved so it doesn't build up bacteria in the container, which a lot of these like super clean, hippie, dippy, crunchy type of skincare brands kind of fall short, is they could be actually not very stable from a micro perspective, but also the actives not being kept stable, like vitamin C or antioxidants. So I actually use colloidal silver in my skincare line, which is pretty revolutionary. Sunscreen is really important. Mineral sunscreen on the eyelids, the face, the neck, the chest, the hands, the high real estate area, but only a mineral sunscreen. I don't recommend chemical sunscreen filters at all, especially if we're putting products on the neck. So whether that be our skincare, whether that be our sunscreen, makeup, perfumes, when we're putting stuff on the neck, especially perfumes that contain phthalates, that's right over the thyroid. So I'll just use essential oil as a little bit of a fragrance, but we're very conscious about the products that I use, because I think that if we're putting stuff on our neck, it's right next to the thyroid. And I think for sure that thyroid could end up picking up toxins and then accumulating it, and then it impacts the function of the thyroid. So I've worked with a lot of clients over the years that have thyroid disease, hyperthyroidism, hypothyroidism. And first things first, we want to really just clean up the skincare routine, dial it in and streamline it. And then the fourth thing, cleanse, moisturize, sunscreen, exfoliate. We want to be exfoliating the skin to get off that buildup of the stratum corneum, which is like cornflakes when they stack up. If you have dry skin or sensitive skin, you're probably not cleansing enough, and you're probably definitely not exfoliating enough. But when you just start to do these four things with products that are honed and customized to what your specific skin needs are, you should start to see some positive changes after even just 2 weeks.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. So we're going to talk a little bit later about your skincare line. Do you have your own sunscreen as well, or is it?
What I've done since 2011 is I've recommended products I really love, but there were a couple of products that I thought, company keeps changing formulation, then I have to pull it, or it's too hard to get, or I could make it better. So I made a number of products that I've sold over the years better. So cleanser, hyaluronic acid serum, copper peptide serum, light moisturizer, heavy moisturizer, a few other products like an eye gel. Sunscreen, there is a sunscreen I have that I love. It's a great one. It's a 20% zinc. That's from another company. It's on my Skin Shop. So it's a combination of what I recommend of things that I've made that I've just made what's in the med spa industry, I think, better. And then still some really good products that are still made by other companies.
Yeah, I must admit, I don't moisturize or exfoliate, but again, most guys, I'm thinking probably don't, but I'm guessing you would recommend it for both women and men.
Absolutely. And here we get into the concept of a team-based relationship, right? Say if you listening are in a partnership and you're the one that's like really excited about health and looking after yourself because you kind of feel crummy if you don't. And you know that if you take better care of yourself, you're going to show up as a better partner and maybe a better parent too, and in your workplace. So this stuff is really important to you. If your partner isn't really on the same page, there can be potentially some conflict around that. So it isn't about if you're kind of one person is super into health and wellness and the other one is like, oh, is that snake oil kind of thing? Skepticism is a sign of intelligence, by the way. You can just like slowly start to integrate these things into your lifestyle and into your home so it's not overwhelming for your partner. Ideally, you want to be in a team-based relationship where both of you have shared values, and that includes health and wellness. So oftentimes my clients, probably about 70% are ladies and 30% gents. You're sharing your products. You're sharing your cleanser, your moisturizer, your eye cream, your sunscreen, your scrub. Even if you have younger kids that maybe are acne prone, you're getting them set up with good products too, so that they don't go to these big box stores and end up using products that have like tin and DNA and BPA. I've actually seen that in products marketed to teens from like some of the biggest brands out there, because I go through ingredients of what my products are using when I do one-on-one sessions globally. But actually for the guys to start to do these basics too is fantastic. And then also even looking at hair care, right? So guys usually use like one bar of soap for their whole body, their face, their hair, their body. But, the skin cell receptors on the face is actually different from the body. So when I teach lasers, which I was for the last 2 days at a med spa clinic, we have to change the settings when we go from the face to the body, because literally the skin on the body is actually more sensitive than on the face. You might think it's the opposite, but it's not. And then the scalp is essentially an extension of your skin. So for having healthy, thick hair and getting ahead of hair loss, which for sure happens with thyroid disease, is how can we care for the scalp directly with maybe when you're shampooing, doing some better exfoliation. I can make some recommendations for products. And then also using some products that can promote supporting hair growth too.
You're right. I mean, a lot of people with thyroid conditions have hair loss, and I find it even worse in those with hyperthyroidism. I mean, it could, with either hypo or hyper, you could have it, but it seems like those with hyperthyroidism, it's extreme. Obviously, balancing the thyroid hormones is important. But then, I get a lot of questions about what else can I do when it comes to hair, stopping the hair loss in addition to balancing the thyroid hormones and growing back the hair. Hear things about biotin and other nutrients helping, which obviously we need healthy nutrients, healthy gut. But as far as products go, I'd love for you to talk about, like, do some of those products actually work in helping to stimulate hair growth?
Oh yeah, after a couple of weeks, you'll notice baby hairs. I mean, that can be annoying as a lady when you're styling. You're like, oh, I gotta, make sure that I style these little baby hairs down. But like, it happens pretty quick. One of the products I use actually has a willow bark extract, and it's been used for decades. So what I've found being in the industry of, helping people rejuvenate their skin is I've really moved towards this angle of let's support the body first. Let's clear out the toxins, because you're having some signs like skin redness, skin dryness, accelerated aging, hyperpigmentation, breakouts, those breakouts staying red longer, hair loss, weight shifts, the eyes showing more whites of the eyes above and below your iris, and the eyes bulging, right? There's so much that our physicality can visibly show us that something's off. So at the first sign of noticing that something's off, what I suggest is, say I've gone through a particularly stressful time. What I'll notice is typically skin dryness, maybe some irritation to my gums, maybe a little bit of gut disturbance as well. maybe some redness and irritation to the skin on my neck, maybe irritation to the scalp. These are like my initial signs that I've learned to read in myself that, okay, it's time to slow down. It's time to make sure I eat super clean, keep that 2 to 2.5 liters of purified water every single day up, lots of protein. I do 1 to 1.5 grams of protein per pound of body weight. Make sure I'm exercising, fueling my body appropriately, not going too hard on the caffeine, getting appropriate sleep, making sure that I'm putting my oxygen mask on first, doing all those basic foundational things. And then if some things are persisting, like hair loss, and you've done the foundational work, you've done the gut testing, right? Like with what you provide guidance on, then look at also supporting topically with, say, hair growth stimulating products on the scalp. Skincare that's going to be feeding and nourishing the skin and helping with pigmentation and speeding up cell turnover that slows down as we age. Doing that, and then maybe looking at some in-clinic rejuvenation. But more often than not, really when we actually take the time, energy, and sometimes resources to bolster up our daily routine, our at-home practices, we can require less in-clinic rejuvenation, or what we do in the clinic, we just get a better response from, and we don't need to do as much. So that's quite simply something I've observed in myself also personally. So as an aesthetics provider, I get access to anything and everything in the industry, as you can imagine. But back in 2017, 2018, when I started to take this biohacking approach, I was also in a really rough car accident. So I had to reduce inflammation and environmental toxins and emotional, psychological stressors at every turn so that I wouldn't be in pain. But then I noticed my skin got better. So I think that there's a huge overlap to also those of you tuning in who are experiencing thyroid disease. And a little psychological tip is to not say, my hyperthyroidism, my thyroid disease, my hypothyroidism. It's kind of like my acne, my fine lines and wrinkles. Don't reinforce that into your identity. It's simply something you're experiencing now, and you're going to be making those positive, constructive shifts to overcome that. Or if you do happen to experience it, you know what to do because you're dialed in to notice when something's off. And then you're really good at maintaining a lower level of inflammation and oxidative stress. But know that when that bucket gets full, it's going to tip over. And then you'll probably see skin, hair, eye, gum, and energy shifts.
All right, that was some great advice. So definitely want to talk about eye health with you. Anything else you wanted to say about healthy hair before we talk about the eyes?
Use great products because your hair care products probably have phthalates and different chemical compounds in them that when you're washing your hair, your body's absorbing those toxins, right? Parabens and phthalates are really common, and fragrance, right? Fragrance is a known hormone disruptor. So with the hair, really clean up your products. And I have some great recommendations from other companies that I source on my skin shop as well. And even cleaning up your laundry and your home cleaning products, like everything. You just want to be as clean as possible.
Great tips. Appreciate you giving that advice. If you are looking to do everything you can to save your thyroid, in addition to watching my videos on YouTube, you also might want to subscribe to my free online newsletter, which is called Healthy Gut, Healthy Thyroid. Not only will you get the latest news on how to heal your gut and restore your thyroid health, but during each edition, I'll demonstrate a different blood or functional medicine test marker that relates to healing your gut and or your thyroid. There will also be an Ask Dr. Eric section where not only can you see questions that other people have asked related to gut and thyroid health, but you can also submit a question for me to answer in a future edition. To subscribe to the Healthy Gut, Healthy Thyroid newsletter, please visit savemythyroid.com/newsletter. So again, really eager and excited to talk to you about eye health because I know you have some great tips for having healthy eyelids, those bags under the eyes that a lot of people have questions about. A lot of people watching this have thyroid eye disease, which you're familiar with as well. A lot of people I have on the podcast, they're not really familiar with eye health and thyroid eye disease. So again, just this is really exciting. So I guess as far as just the appearance of the eyes, as for those who have dry eyes, which doesn't really relate to the appearance, but just, I guess, the dry
Sure.
eyes, and then also the yeah, well, that's true. Yeah, I guess I think of more how they feel, but you're right. They do, a lot of people do appear with the redness of the eyes. And then, yeah, those bags on the eyes. So what are some things people can do for the dry eyes, the bags under the eyes?
Absolutely. So when I'm looking at somebody, and this is why, again, I wrote this paper on oxidative stress to teach other aesthetic doctors and nurses in their practices to take a good look at their patients. Do they look like they're inflamed? And the easiest way to tell if someone's inflamed, number one, they're going to be tired. Number two, psychologically, they're going to be scattered and kind of stressed out and ramped up and in this hyper-vigilant nervous system state, like always like their nervous system's ramped up. They hear a sound and they're like, what's that, right? There's also some attachment style and psychological things that go along with that. I love talking about that stuff too, because it really impacts the way that we show up and how we can be our best versions and brightest, most radiant versions. But when we look at the eyes can tell us so much. There's this concept of the eyes being the window to the soul, right? This is how we connect with eye contact with someone we're speaking to and being present. No one really wants to talk to somebody whose eyes are darting all over the place. And that can tell you actually quite a bit from an NLP perspective of how they're operating. But the redness and darkness and puffiness around the eyes is, I would say, a late indicator sign that there's inflammation in the body. So when I've done different analyses of products on the market, companies will hire me, I'll do a study for them using photography to see, oh, does this product that you take internally make the skin look better? If it's a really good antioxidant, antioxidants helps to empty out the toxic bucket. They bind to free radicals and help reduce inflammation, which inflammaging is what ages us. I should be able to see reduction of redness, darkness, and puffiness around the eyes, including puffiness to the lower eyelid region in about 4 weeks. So if something's happening internally, I think that what happens is visibly we start to see those shifts with dry skin, red skin, changes, darkness, redness, puffiness to the eyes, itching, right? Even flaking. There's inflammation that's been there for a couple weeks at least, and now you're seeing it manifest on the eyes. So I'm a huge fan of, making sure you have your foundations established with doing gut testing, eating the right foods for you, purifying your air, water, lighting, reducing your exposure to EMFs, clearing out the yeast, fungi, mold, heavy metals, and parasites, and then potentially doing some additional things to support the eyes. So I'm a huge fan of antioxidants, like I mentioned, I take internally that help to keep my toxic bucket empty. But what I find also with the eyes is those who are prone to seasonal allergies. I've had family members experience this. They take a certain antioxidant that I've said, hey, try this, see how it works. And they don't experience seasonal allergies that year. And I think it's because the body can those antioxidants are just keeping that toxic bucket empty. Now, say you've done all that and you're doing the best you can, but there's still something off with the thyroid. Definitely working with someone like Dr. Eric Ozansky is, I think, really wise to see what your thyroid levels are and then supporting and making adjustments accordingly. Now, in particular in ophthalmology and oculoplastic surgery, which I've been an aesthetic nurse in since 2011, what we will see is that white show above and below the iris of the eye and the eye bulging. That's definitely, I would say, a later sign of thyroid disease, and definitely get on top of that. So you love to approach this from a more internal perspective, which I think is fantastic. That would be considered kind of non-surgical. And there's other non-surgical things that we can do too. Say, for example, hooding to the upper eyelid, a low brow, and also puffiness to the lower eyelid area. There are things that we can inject around the eye to reduce the movement of the muscle. Now, that being said, if there is some underlying health stuff, I would say maybe doing injectables from a rejuvenation standpoint, like neuromodulators or fillers, might actually fill your toxic bucket a little bit. And we might not want to do that, right? You might notice more brain fog after treatment, or for me, I noticed once after fillers, my HRV went way down. So it does require a little bit of recovery. There are lasers that we can apply around the eyes to help to thicken the skin and promote collagen and elastin. So those are kind of the non-surgical side of things. I really don't think that there's a skin product that exists that takes care of dark under eye bags and dark under eye circles, right? The darkness is thin skin. You're seeing the musculature and the blood underneath the skin. So we want to thicken that skin up. Makeup's good too. But sometimes surgery is the option, is what's going to provide more of a noticeable and robust effect. So it really just depends on what someone's experiencing and what they want to do about it. Do they want to do the lifestyle stuff? Do they want to do the in-clinic, non-surgical lasers and injectables, or do they want to do the surgery? It just depends on everyone's individual values and budget and lifestyle. But one thing I will say is if you have dark under eye bags, I don't recommend doing hyaluronic acid filler in there. That's actually why I wrote my eye rejuvenation paper, is because I saw so many issues from that. There's other things that we can do, I would say first, in like an algorithm.
Well, when talk about injectables, so you're mentioning fillers, where does Botox fall?
That's a brand name. So that's a neuromodulator. So it modulates the message from the nerve to the muscle.
I was going to say, because there is a little bit of controversy in the world of thyroid health and immune system that it could be potentially, in some cases, a trigger. So I don't know if you've heard of that, or if there's...
that's why I wrote my paper.
Oh, did you? Wow.
That's why I wrote my paper on oxidative stress status and its impacts on skin aging, is to prioritize the health of the individual. Like if there's signs of inflammation, like around the eyes, for me to get this information out there for aesthetic providers to say, hey, I think there could be some underlying health stuff you might want to address before doing rejuvenation.
And how about castor oil packs? We chatted a little bit before pressing record because I get questions about castor oil packs a lot with the thyroid, but every now and then someone with thyroid eye disease will ask, well, can castor oil packs help? And you mentioned some potential concerns.
Yeah, we'll talk about castor, but I forgot to mention also dermal rolling and microneedling on the skin and around the eyes. So say someone doesn't want to do something in the clinic, you can do some things at home to stimulate collagen with the right products, with the right technique. And this is something that I highlight and teach in my tutorials as well. I don't just put it out there because it's literally microneedling at home. But it is fantastic and it's non-invasive, cost-effective, use clean products with it. It's great. I'm a huge fan. I do it myself. So I wanted to mention that there was one other option out there that is from an at-home cleaner standpoint. Now, when it comes to castor oil packs, I love castor oil. We know that there's a lot of benefits to castor oil. Say, for example, for sleeping with a castor oil pack over your liver to help to draw out toxins. There's just oodles of information of castor oil. It's been used for, millennia, essentially. But your specific question around irritation to the eyes, I think what we've seen work the best is keep the eyes clean and warm compresses. I'm not of the position to make a blanket statement that castor oil is great for the eyes, because I do have a concern of potentially the castor oil actually blocking the meibomian glands of the lids, which create lubrication. So that's why I don't recommend oil cleansers or anything like that. Like, we want to keep the lids clean so that those meibomian glands don't get blocked. So I don't have a definitive answer on that. Is it going to be beneficial or negative? I don't have a definitive answer. What I would say is, you could try things and see if it works. I'm not a huge fan of trying things. I want to do something, but I also want to know that it works. So we do know that warm compresses are helpful. I have dry eye too, actually. 50% of us do. And what I found helps me is getting in my sauna, red light therapy, warm compresses, washing my face in the bath or the shower with fresh running water in the AM and the PM, and reducing my oxidative stress status, toxic load, and inflammation. The other thing I will add, which I don't really hear anybody else talk about, but just makes such a difference for me, is actually sleeping with a silver threaded eye mask. So you've probably seen those like jelly eye masks that you can heat up and cool down and put them on your eyes. But what we see in the literature on how EMFs or electromagnetic fields or wireless cellular radiation impact the skin is it ends up messing with your red blood cells and we get reduced blood flow. And then on the skin, we can experience more redness and irritation, as well as we got two eyeballs. They're very metabolically sensitive, and they're actually quite sensitive to EMFs. So when you're sleeping with, say, an eye mask that's made of silver threads, which I have two brands that I really like their EMF protective clothing. They have silver threads woven into the fabric. That's on my biohacking page. And one of them has an eye mask. I love that. I find that it makes my eyes feel better. The other thing for eyes is to consider wearing actually blue light blocking glasses that work, not just the coating that your optometrist will put on your lenses, but actually a standalone blue light blocking glasses. So I have some recommendations for those too. I wear those all the time because the blue light actually reaches a little bit deeper into the skin than what we get outside. And we're just getting so much blue light and EMF exposure to these highly metabolic organs here that I think that those are actually two really great strategies. And for eye drops, I actually use methylene blue eye drops.
Very cool. I'm familiar with methylene blue. I didn't know there were methylene blue eye drops, though. That's interesting.
I mean, this, to be fair, this is not medical advice. This is educational information only. Some of these things are just things that I do because I am a super nerdy biohacker, and I get to have conversations with some of the greatest minds in this health and wellness space, and also look at the published data and then write papers on it. So methylene blue, it's like something a little bit new for me, but it works for me.
And then with the red light therapy, where did you learn? Because again, you're not giving like specific recommendations telling people to go out and get a red light and use it on their eyes. But for people who want to use it, where did you learn how to incorporate red light therapy to use them on your eyes in a safe way?
I started a podcast, and I had the opportunity to interview the CEOs and founders from lots of different companies. Then they'd send me their products. I'd get to try them out. And so basically what's on my biohacking page are products that I personally use and have vetted. So I won't say like specific brands when I'm doing an interview because my recommendations are always subject to change. Same with like skincare stuff. Different companies can tweak things, or things happen in the company that I don't like from like a personal, business, ethical perspective. But I started to utilize red light when I kind of entered into this biohacking world. And I'm glad I did because it really helped me overcome and manage pain after 2 car crashes, pretty intense ones. Neither were my fault. Having dry eye as well. But the red light is very calming, and I'll use it in my restroom. I also have it in my bedroom and also in my sauna here. And I like it. Like, we know there's so much literature now on red light, but a lot of red light products like face masks or eye masks, I would just go for a panel. I think it's more efficient. I kind of think like an engineer sometimes, that highly thinking analytical, like what's going to be the most efficient option. I don't think a trendy red light face mask is as good as using a large panel where you can basically do your whole upper body, as opposed to wearing this face mask that makes you look like a stormtrooper.
Agree. I actually have a panel, so it's
perfect. Yeah. And then you can spin around and get your backside too. And yeah.
Definitely want you to, I know you've referred to your skin line and your shop a few times, but I want you to talk a little bit more about that. But before you do that, anything else? I mean, there's so much more I'm sure you could talk about, but anything else related to our conversation before we get a little bit into your skincare line that you wanted to mention?
100%. Well, number one, I'm really happy and proud for each and every one of you who is taking the time to hang out with Dr. Eric Lazansky and myself to learn how to be healthier. And you might have gone through different things in your life, things in your upbringing, trauma, the pace of your life now, might be some things you're not quite happy about. These things impact us physically. So when you're learning, you're on this path of discovering what makes you feel better. Take it from this approach that we're all individuals. We're all wonderfully and beautifully created, I think so anyways. And taking a more individual approach, I think, is the way to go, because something might not work for you, but works for somebody else. So it's great to just kind of become like your own investigator or your own detective and just find what helps you be dialed in. Find what helps you feel great. When you feel great, the looking great is going to come. If you are, have historically looked great, but you feel like there's some changes in your appearance, there can be some really deeper underlying reasons of maybe why you have more inflammation in your body, why you feel like you're aging overnight, especially in perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopause. And then for guys losing testosterone, there's so many different layers to beauty and optimization, but really just do the best you can at being your best version. Do like one thing each month, like getting a water purifier, like getting an air purifier, like getting a new kind of hair care routine so you're not putting phthalates all over your body anymore, or parabens, switching up your skincare routine, dialing in how you're eating, your supplements. Do like one thing a month so you don't get overly consumed with this stuff or have it break the bank. But know that you're on this path to be your best version, and I'm super proud of you. And you're kind of one of these individuals who you care for yourself, and then you're actually going to be able to care for others better too and be of service. So I think that that's a really healthy kind of like position and framework to look at health optimization, but don't get too stressed out, and definitely don't fall prey to the bright, shiny objects or like this new fad diet or this new fad biohacking product or this new skin gimmick. Same thing goes with actually dry eye treatments in the clinic. There's a lot that are not so good and that are very expensive. And same with thyroid, right? You're fully aware of some of the different approaches to thyroid. You can put a Band-Aid on it, or you can get to the root cause. So just be gentle on yourself, consume information from speakers who don't get you ramped up into this high beta state. And then once you learn these things, don't become that health or biohacking or wellness hose when you're speaking to other people, because everyone's on their own journey. And I'm just happy that you're here with us.
Yeah, that is some wonderful advice. So yeah, thank you so much. And yeah, talk a little bit about your skincare line. So what differentiates your products from many of the others out there?
Well, it's been a labor of love. As I mentioned before, I've probably sold about 15 different brands over the years, but I noticed there were some ingredient shifts. There were just some ingredients in them that I feel like didn't need to be there, and I can make it better. So that's why I've created my own cleanser, eye cream, hyaluronic acid serum, copper peptide serum, light moisturizer, heavy moisturizer, antioxidant serum that are as clean as possible, like super clean. Like some of these products I would even eat. Like I can't say you eat it, but I would. And that's really important. It's like what you're putting on your skin, you want it to get the job done, but you don't want it to be adding to your toxic bucket, which a lot of cosmetic products do. So you can head on over to theschoolofradiance.com. That's my website, theschoolofradiance.com. My skin shop link is there. You can check out a free 30-minute lesson where I talk about air, water, lighting, electromagnetics, eating the right food, and detoxing in an easy way. Book a one-on-one with me, and you can use promo code ERIC15, and that will get you 15% off of a one-on-one with me. And learn how to use your products from the comfort of your own home. I mentioned dermal rolling, but a lot of us don't actually learn how to apply our products and utilize them at a higher level and really dial in our home care. So that's what my tutorials do. I teach you how to become your own skin pro. And then, of course, for the more personal development container, how we can both look and feel our best with a lot of things that I do that I don't share publicly for a couple of different reasons, but really work for myself and also those who I've served for many years that I observed were radiant, are radiant. That's my membership. So everything's over at theschoolofradiance.com. Shop your skincare. But if you do need some specific recommendations, you'd like me to personally streamline your routine and select a routine for you, maybe talk about some rejuvenation stuff, some biohacking stuff, and give you that ongoing support, definitely book a one-on-one. And that code is Eric15, and I would love to meet you.
And you also have, you said, a page for biohacks, like your biohacking page?
Yeah, so air purifier, water purifier, EMF protective clothing, the eye masks, bedding, all sorts of things that just are going to help you set your home up for success for not only you, but your partner and your whole family. All blue light blocking glasses, sauna, that's at theschoolofradiance.com. And you'll just see like the word biohacking, click that, and then you'll see my recommendations. In a one-on-one, I will go through kind of what you might be doing now and some shifts that you could also make that you might not have thought about.
Okay, cool. So really everything, all the resources they need are on the website, including, I'm sure, a link to your podcast, or they could just go to their favorite platform and just type in the School of Radiance and they'll find your podcast as well. Yeah. All right. Well, wonderful. Well, of course, include all those. Well, yeah, I was going to say all the links in the show notes, but really it's the main link, of course, is the link to your website, but we'll also include a separate link to the School of Radiance podcast. If you have social media.
Yeah, Instagram super fun to hang out with me at.
Okay.
At Rachel Varga Official. I'm all about just inspiring you, motivating you. If I can do this stuff, you can do it too. And then if you're also looking for another resource that's free, if you go to skincarechecklist.com, you're going to see I actually just recently updated this. This is like really new, great information to help you out now over at skincarechecklist.com.
Okay, wonderful. I'm going to check out that checklist as well. So, well, thank you so much, Rachel. This again, I knew this was going to be an amazing conversation. You definitely didn't disappoint. Again, I found this to be valuable. Took plenty of notes. I don't know, you probably didn't notice it in the background, but I always try to take notes. And this one, it was hard to keep up just because you had like gem after gem, just really a lot of information. So probably going to have to re-listen to this myself. But thank you. Again, thank you so much for sharing all this information with my listeners.
My absolute pleasure. I'm really curious. Like if you were to just take a quick snapshot at the notes that you took, what stood out for you?
Of course, the eye care stuff is important because just a lot of the people I work with have thyroid eye disease. And I mean, not everybody that has dry eyes, of course, have thyroid eye disease, but still it's a lot of people have eye issues just in general. So that
50% of us. Yep.
Yeah. So I think that was probably but even the skincare, because again, my wife does everything you mentioned, like the moisturizing and the exfoliation. And again, I'm like, do we really need to do that? I mean, you gave a really good explanation why not just women, but us men should do it as well, and not just rely on the single bar soap. I do use shampoo and soap, so I don't moisturize my hair or condition my hair, but I do have a separate shampoo for that. So I'm not just using a single bar, but again, so yeah, like I said, there was a lot of the silver threaded eye mask. I mean, I use an eye mask, but I don't think it's silver threaded. I probably would know, I guess, if it was. But so again, just like I said, things like that. You mentioned the oxygen mask. So again, you like so much information that again, I want to even learn more about. So we might have to get you back on the podcast in the future again, just to discuss more of these biohacks in the future.
Yeah, it's different for everybody. I'm so glad that those stood out. And just to kind of like clarify for everybody tuning in what the silver threaded eye mask is for, I wear it to give my eyes a break while I sleep from EMFs and wireless cellular radiation. Looking at sleep like beauty sleep, like recovery. And there's a nuance between the ways that the gents age and the ladies age. Last time I checked, guys don't go through perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopause. So,
true.
there's some differences with what happens in the aging process between us.
Yeah, without question. But yeah, again, thanks. Thank you so much again. This was great, and look forward to having you on again in the future.